Hey guys, I'm Ted and I'm here to give you another fast fact, and for today's fast fact we'll discuss the Constitution of the United States. Now, the Constitution was a pretty radical departure from the previous instrument of government, the Articles of Confederation. When it was first released, when it was first finished and the delegates attached their names to it, only 35 of the 55 delegates signed it. The ones who didn't sign it, they cited, amongst other things, their belief that the document created a federal government that was way too strong. They were statesmen rather than national men, and their opposition was met and echoed even louder by the older revolutionaries who were in complete shock that other Americans would devise and give their consent to such an instrument. Men such as Patrick Henry and Sam Adams, they did all they could to undermine the passage or the ratification of the new Constitution. The Constitution also was also the sum of the compromises between the wealthy elite and the lower classes who were making these democratic thrusts into local and state and national politics. There was to be input from the people. The people were going to be allowed to vote, but the states, and by states we read the elites, the wealthy elites, were supposed to elect. So you may vote for a candidate, but the decision process, the man who you're going to vote for, he's already going to be decided by the elites. That was the compromise. They wanted to retain outward control while including the lower order into the process. They wanted to make them feel as though they're a member of the club by exercising the vote, by exercising the right of voting. There was also an unspoken agreement that George Washington will be the first president under this new Constitution. Washington, who had been serving as the presiding officer of the convention, was fully aware of this, and Washington had a stellar reputation as being a man who knew how to exercise power on the national level, but who also was a man of strong enough character that he would not use that character for his own personal gain. Towards the end of the revolution, there was a conspiracy known as the Newburgh Conspiracy, in which disgruntled army officers attempted to enlist Washington's aid in overthrowing not only the Continental Congress, the Confederation Congress, but also the state governments, and forming a constitutional monarchy with Washington as king. Washington squashed it, and subsequently, to remove himself from being used in future plots, he resigned his post. So Washington had he had this good sort of civic virtue, integrity, moral fiber vibe going. This aura of all three of those things going for him. So he was a perfect choice to sort of show that this new Constitution, while it was more powerful, while it did create a stronger government, the government will be headed by men of Washington's stature, of Washington's composition. And more importantly, the end result of the convention, of the Philadelphia Convention or the Constitutional Convention, was to have the nation remain a republic. All the men who participated in that, they were first and foremost elites, aristocrats, really, but they were committed Republican. They had no desire to, one, support democracy, really, but they had no real desire to create any sort of monarchy. They wanted representational government. They simply wanted the government, the representatives of the government, to be selected from within their ranks. So they wanted that republic. They wanted that representative republic of their element, of their class. They also wanted a stronger federal government to meet the challenges of not just dealing with the shades of incidents like Shays' Rebellion, but also dealing with the relative weakness in the states, of the federal government vis-a-vis the states. The states were able to stymie the federal government rather easily. They wanted to check that. They wanted to check that. very much, because in checking the state's ability to stymie the federal government, they strengthened their hands in local affairs. It was creating a stronger federal government with their way of securing themselves and their property and in their status. Um, but they did, but it was a nearly perfect solution. With one, slavery, the continuation of slavery sort of discredits their convention from being in their document from being totally perfect, but also the division of power between the states and the federal government. The states were to retain substantial powers, including what civil rights their citizens were entitled to, but there never was any sort of clear division, and there still isn't really a clear division between what is a prerogative of the states and then what is the domain of the federal government. Um, Yeah. So in total, just to sort of wrap up our little fast fact, the failures of the Articles of Confederation and the post-war democratic thrusts led to an alienation of moderates and conservatives who were motivated by money and class interests to respond with a new means to temper such activities. The Constitution, while it was an anti-democratic government meant to protect the interests of the elites, or early republics aristocrats, it did nonetheless confirm the democratic thrust with the limited inclusion of democracy in a new government. Um, it's best summed up by the people get to vote, but they get to vote for their betters who will govern on their behalf. And there you guys have it. That's our little fast fact for today. It's kind of went off a little longer than our normal fast fact, but I hope you guys still enjoyed it. I wanted to clarify because on the my ending for our lecture on the Constitutional Convention wasn't the strongest, but the ending wasn't the strongest, so I wanted to come back and sort of give a fast fact, a little more depth to our fast fact on the Constitution to sort of rectify that. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you found it a little enlightening. And as always, I want you to hit like, subscribe, and comment. Let me know what you thought about my fast fact on the Constitution. And as always, I'm Ted, and I'll see you guys later for another lecture.